The morning sky over Velox City burned red with the fires of destruction. Council leader Nira stood at the massive viewing window of the government tower, watching helplessly as Chromax warships rained death upon her world. A beautiful crystal. Spires that had taken centuries to build crumbled like glass under the relentless bombardment. "How many worlds have we lost?" Nira asked, without turning around. Her voice carried the weight of a leader watching her civilization die. "Defense Minister." Olin stepped forward, his blue skin pale with exhaustion. 17 systems in the past week. Our forces cannot hold them back. The Chromax are too strong, too brutal. Nira closed her eyes. The Velinari had built their society on peace and knowledge. For over 1,000 years they had never needed to wage war. Their technology focused on healing, building, and learning. They had no weapons that could match the savage efficiency of the Chromax war machine. What about the other species? Have any responded to our calls for help? She asked communications. Officer Terra approached with a datapad. The Zenthari promised medical supplies in 3 weeks. The Galactic Trade Union offers to evacuate our scientists to neutral territory. The Peaceful Alliance sends their thoughts and prayers. Nira's shoulders sagged. Thoughts and prayers would not stop the Chromax from burning every Velinari world. Tuash, on the streets below, panic filled the air. Families ran through the smoke-filled roads, carrying whatever they could save. Children cried for parents lost in the chaos. Emergency vehicles raced between burning buildings, their sirens mixing with the sounds of distant explosions. The Chromax had given no warning. Their massive fleet had simply appeared at the edge of Velinari space and begun destroying everything. In sight, no demands, no negotiations, just pure destruction. It was their way. It took what they wanted and killed everything else. Council leader Admiral Kessa's voice crackled through the communication system. 3 more Chromax destroyer squadrons have entered the Helix sector. Our patrol ships are requesting permission to retreat. Granted, Nira replied immediately. She would not waste Velinari lives in hopeless battles. Every ship that survived might save civilians later. The door to the chamber burst open. Emergency Coordinator Vale rushed in, his uniform torn and covered in dust. Council leader, we have maybe 6 hours before Chromax ground forces begin landing. Our planetary shields are failing. Nira turned from the window. Round the tables sat the remaining members of the Velinari High Council. These peaceful beings had never faced anything like this. They built schools and hospitals, not fortresses and weapons. How could they fight an enemy that lived for war? "We need to send one final transmission," Nira said quietly. "A galaxy-wide distress call. Someone must help us." "To whom?" asked Science. "Director Pax. Every major power has already responded. They offer words, not action." "Then we call to the unknown," Nira replied. "There are species out there we have never contacted. Someone must have the strength to stand against the Chromax." Terra moved to her console, preparing wide-spectrum transmission across all known communication frequencies. Nira walked to the center of the room. Despite the chaos outside, she forced herself to stand straight. If these were to be among her final acts as leader of the Velinari, she would do them with dignity. "Record this message for immediate transmission," she said. The recording light flickered on. Nira looked directly into the camera, knowing this. Plea would travel across countless star systems to species both known and unknown. "This is Council Leader Nira of the Velinari Federation. Our worlds are under attack by the Chromax Empire. They show no mercy to civilians. They destroy everything they cannot take. We are a peaceful people with limited defensive capabilities. We desperately need immediate assistance. Any aid would be appreciated. Medical supplies, transport ships. For refugees or protection for our remaining populations, we can offer scientific knowledge, cultural exchange, and eternal friendship to anyone willing to help us in this dark hour. Please, if any species can hear this transmission, we beg for your help, transmitting our location and situation details." Now, the recording ended. Terra quickly attached detailed star charts showing Chromax invasion routes and Velinari defensive positions. Broadcasting on all frequencies, Terra announced. For several minutes, the council chamber fell silent, except for the distant sounds of battle. Everyone stared at the communication console, hoping for any response. Then the incoming message light began blinking rapidly. Multiple responses coming in, Terra said with growing excitement. The Alterian Republic offers medical aid. Cosmic. Merchants Guild will provide transport ships at standard rates. The Academic Union of Worlds requests copies of our scientific databases in exchange for temporary shelter on their research stations. Nira felt a small spark of hope. It was not much, but perhaps enough to save some of her people. "Wait, Terra," said her voice changing. "There is another signal, much stronger. Unknown origin." The main display screen flickered to life. A being appeared that none of them had ever seen before. It had pale skin, strange facial hair, and eyes that seemed to hold dangerous intelligence. When it spoke, its voice was calm, but carried undertones that made everyone in the room feel uncomfortable. "This is Admiral Morrison of the Terran Defense Fleet, responding to Velinari distress call. We acknowledge your situation and are prepared to provide immediate assistance. Our aid package is currently being prepared for deployment to your coordinates. We will handle the Chromax situation. Prepare landing coordinates for our relief operations. Terra out." The transmission ended abruptly. The council chamber erupted in confused voices. No one had heard of Terra or humans before. Their star charts showed no record of their location. Did he say they would handle the Chromax situation? Admiral Kess asked through the CUM system. "That is what he said," Olin replied. "But how? They must not understand the size of the Chromax invasion force." Nira stared at the no-dark screen. Something about the human's message troubled her. He had not asked for details about their situation. He had not requested information about Chromax military strength. He simply said they would handle it. "Terra, scan all frequencies for more information about these humans," Nira ordered.
"Already trying, Council Leader."
Their signal was incredibly powerful, but I cannot locate its origin point. Whoever they are, their communication technology is very advanced. Outside the tower, another wave of Chromax bombers screamed overhead. The building shook as explosions erupted across the city center. Time was running out for everyone on the planet. "Oh, should we provide the landing coordinates they requested?" Bale asked. Nira considered this carefully. It asked for help, and someone had answered. Whatever these humans intended to do, it had to be better than watching the Chromax destroy everything. "Send them our primary spaceport coordinates," she decided. "And Vale, prepare our people for the arrival of unknown allies." As the sun set over the burning city, Nira wondered what kind of beings would promise to handle an entire empire's invasion force. She hoped they were powerful enough to keep their word. She had no idea that her plea for help had just invited the most dangerous predators in the galaxy to their world. The space around Velox Prime had become a graveyard. Twisted metal from destroyed Velinari ships drifted silently among the stars. Chromax warships patrolled the system like hungry predators, their dark holes scarred from countless battles. Admiral Kess floated in the command center of the orbital defense station, one of the few Velinari military installations still operational. His webbed hands moved across holographic displays showing the grim tactical situation. Red markers indicated Chromax positions throughout the star system. Blue markers showed the pitiful remains of Velinari forces. "Admiral, Communications Officer," Lynn called out, her voice tight with stress. "Long-range sensors are detecting something at the system's edge. Multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace." Kess turned toward the main display. "More Chromax reinforcements?" "Negative, sir." Duh. "Energy signatures are completely unknown." "Scanning now." On the main screen, distant points of light appeared near the outer planets. As the sensors focused, the shapes became clearer. Kess felt his breathing stop. These were not Chromax ships. These vessels were unlike anything in their databases, massive. Ships that looked more like flying fortresses than exploration vessels. Their hulls were dark gray, covered in weapon emplacements and armor plating. Even from this distance, they radiated menace. Count Kess asked quietly. 47 capital. "Ships, sir. Hundreds of smaller vessels, and they are moving fast." Kess had never seen a fleet formation like this. The ships moved with perfect coordination, arranged in attack patterns that spoke of military precision. Whatever species had built these vessels, they understood war. Incoming transmission, Lin announced. Same source as the earlier human message? The screen flickered, showing the face of a human male. He wore a dark uniform with strange markings. His eyes were cold and calculating, like a predator studying prey. Behind him, Kess could see other humans working at control stations. 8. Is Captain Rex Morrison of the Human Relief Fleet? We are responding to Velinari distress calls? Admiral Kess, I believe you are in command of remaining Velinari forces. Kess nodded slowly. Yes, Captain Morrison. We are grateful for your response. But I must warn you, the Chromax have overwhelming numbers and firepower. Perhaps you should coordinate with other relief efforts to evacuate our civilians instead of engaging them directly. Rex smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. Admiral, humans have a different approach to relief operations. We eliminate the source of the problem. Please transmit the locations of all Chromax forces in your system. Captain, you do not understand, Kess insisted. The Chromax Empire has been conquering systems for centuries. Their military technology is proven in countless wars. How many ships do you have? Enough, Rex replied simply. Now, those coordinates... Kess looked around his command center. His officers stared at the screens showing the human fleet. These ships were clearly built for war, but against the Chromax war machine. Transmitting Chromax positions now, Kess said finally. But Captain, we asked for humanitarian aid, medical supplies, transport ships. We did not expect a military response. When humans offer aid, we make sure the problem does not repeat itself. Morrison out. The transmission ended. Kess turned to his tactical officer. Analysis of the human fleet. Sir, their ship designs are completely unknown. Heavy armor, massive weapon arrays. But the Chromax outnumber them 3-1 in this system. Alone, on the display, the human fleet began moving deeper into Velinar space. They advanced in perfect formation, their ships spread across multiple attack vectors. It was clear these beings knew how to coordinate fleet actions. Admiral, the sensor operator called out. Chromax Patrol Squadron Delta 7 is moving to intercept the human fleet. 12 heavy cruisers. Kess watched the tactical display with growing dread. The Chromax ships were veteran warships, their hulls decorated with the marks of dozens of conquered systems. They had destroyed every Velinari force that faced them. Human fleet is not changing course, the tactical officer reported. They are heading straight for the Chromax squadron. The two forces closed rapidly. Kess held his breath as the engagement range approached. The Chromax opened fire first, their plasma cannons lighting up space with deadly energy bursts. Kess expected to see human ships exploding under the barrage. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships absorbed the Chromax fire without significant damage. Their shields flared but held. Then the humans returned fire. What erupted from the human vessels was unlike anything Kess had ever witnessed. Streams of projectiles moving at incredible speeds tore through space. Energy beams of unknown type sliced through Chromax armor like it was thin metal. Missile swarms launched from human ships, each weapon tracking its target with deadly accuracy. The first Chromax cruiser exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Then the second. Within minutes, the entire Chromax patrol squadron was either destroyed or drifting dead in space. Impossible, whispered the tactical officer. But it was not over. More Chromax ships were moving to engage the human fleet. A full battle group of 30 vessels, including 2 massive dreadnoughts that had never been defeated in battle. The humans did not hesitate. They split their formation and attacked from multiple angles. What followed was not a battle, but a demonstration of superior firepower, human weapons. Technology was terrifying in its efficiency. Their projectile weapons punched through Chromax, shields and armor with ease. Their energy weapons cut Chromax ships in half. Their missiles found every weak point in enemy defenses. The Chromax dreadnought Death's Edge, which had destroyed 12 Velinari colonies, lasted less than 5 minutes against 3 human destroyers. When it exploded, the shockwave could be seen from Vilok's prime surface. Admiral Lin's voice was barely a whisper. The human fleet is requesting permission to enter orbit around Vilok's prime. Kess stared at the tactical display. In less than 2 hours, the human fleet had destroyed more Chromax ships than the Velinari had managed in weeks of fighting. The space around their world was now filled with burning Chromax hulks instead of Velinari debris. Granted, he said quietly, and Lin sent a message to the surface. Tell Council Leader Nira that our allies have arrived. As the human ships moved into orbit, Kess noticed something that made him uncomfortable. These vessels were not just passing through. They were taking up defensive positions around Velox Prime, when Lin tried to thank Captain Morrison for his assistance. The human's response was simple. "This is just the beginning, Admiral. We have not finished helping you yet," Kess wondered. What the human meant by that? Looking at the massive warships now surrounding his world, he began to think that perhaps the Velinari had asked for help from beings even more dangerous than the Chromax. On Velox Prime's surface, the people celebrated their salvation. Above them, the human fleet settled into permanent positions there. Weapons trained outward into space. The Chromax threat was ending, but something new was beginning. The capital city of Serenity Prime burned under a crimson sky. Chromax ground forces had been occupying the planet for 3 days, turning the peaceful streets into battlefields. Warlord Vex stood atop the central government building, watching. His soldiers hunt down fleeing civilians. This was what he lived for, the complete destruction of another weak species. He growled to his lieutenant, a scarred Chromax warrior named Drac. "All major population centers are under our control." The Velinari military offered no real resistance. "Their weapons are pathetic," Drac replied with satisfaction. Vex nodded. The Velinari were like most civilized species, soft, weak, useless. In real combat, their cities had fallen in hours. Soon, this world would be stripped of all valuable resources, and the survivors would serve as slaves in Chromax mining colonies. "Sir," a communications officer interrupted. "Long-range sensors. Detect ships approaching the planet. Unknown configuration." Vex turned toward the tactical display. Several dozen ships were descending through the atmosphere. They moved with purpose, heading directly for areas with the heaviest Chromax presence. "Velinari reinforcements?" Vex asked. "Negative. Sir, these ships do not match any known Velinari designs. They appear to be ... heavily armed." Before Vex could respond, the first human dropships broke through the cloud cover above the city. They were massive black vessels, their hulls scarred and battle-worn. As they descended, weapons pods extended from their sides like the claws of hunting beasts. "All units, prepare for enemy landing," Vex commanded. "Show these newcomers what happens when they interfere with the Chromax Empire." The human ships landed in the ruined plaza outside the government building. Massive ramps dropped, and smoke poured out. Through the haze, shapes began moving. Vex expected to see more weak aliens seeking to negotiate or flee. Instead, he saw nightmares made real. The humans that emerged from the dropships were unlike any species Vex had encountered. They wore black armor that made them look like mechanical demons. Their weapons were larger than most species could even carry. But it was their movements that made Vex's blood run cold. They moved like predators, smooth, coordinated, deadly, general. Marcus Kane stepped off the lead dropship and surveyed the battlefield. His enhanced vision immediately identified Chromax positions throughout the city. Behind him, his Marines spread out in perfect tactical formation. Each soldier was a veteran of Earth's brutal conflicts, enhanced with cybernetics and trained for urban warfare. "All right, people," Marcus spoke into his comm system. "Rules of engagement are simple. Chromax forces are hostile targets, Velinari. Civilians are to be protected. Any questions?" "No, sir," came the unified response from 200 human Marines. "Then let's get to work." The first Chromax patrol encountered the humans 3 blocks from the landing zone. Squad leader Grok lead, 12 heavily armed warriors around a corner, expecting to find frightened civilians. Instead, he found Lieutenant Eva Cross and her fire team waiting in ambush. Eva did not hesitate. Her rifle spat armor-piercing rounds at hypersonic velocity. The first Chromax warrior exploded in a spray of blood and shattered bone. Her team members opened fire simultaneously. their weapons designed to penetrate the heaviest battle armor. In 15 seconds, the entire Chromax patrol was dead. Eva stepped over the bodies without emotion and signaled her team to advance. "Contact front," she reported calmly. 12 enemies eliminated. No friendly casualties. Across the city, similar encounters were taking place. Human Marines moved through the urban environment like ghosts, appearing suddenly to destroy Chromax positions before vanishing again. Their tactics were beyond anything the Chromax had faced. Coordinated strikes, overlapping fields of fire, and ruthless efficiency. Staff Sergeant Jake Torres led his squad through the residential district, where Chromax forces were hunting civilians. His thermal vision showed enemy heat signatures in every building. Normal soldiers would have been overwhelmed by the numbers. Human soldiers were not normal. "Thompson, take the building on the left. Williams, you have the right. I will handle the center structure," Jake ordered. His men moved without question. Jake kicked down the front door of the apartment complex and found 6 Chromax soldiers terrorizing a family of Velinari civilians. The aliens had pale blue skin and large frightened eyes. They cowered as the Chromax prepared to execute them. Jake's weapon discharged 4 times. 4 Chromax warriors fell dead before they could react. The remaining 2 turned toward him, raising their plasma rifles. Jake was faster. His enhanced reflexes, products of Earth's military enhancement programs, gave him speed that seemed impossible to the aliens. Within seconds, all 6 Chromax soldiers lay dead on the floor. The Velinari family stared at their rescuer in shock. Jake was covered in alien blood, his armor scratched from the brief firefight. To the civilians, he looked more terrifying than their captors. "Stay here until the all-clear signal," Jake told them in their language, which his translator implant had already analyzed and learned. Then he moved on to the next building, back at the government complex. Warlord Vex watched his tactical display with growing disbelief. Red markers representing his forces were disappearing at an alarming rate. Entire squads were going offline without even sending distress calls. "What is happening out there?" he demanded. "Sir, our forces are under attack by unknown ground troops. They appear to be using advanced weapons and tactics. Our casualties are severe," Drac reported. "How many enemies are we facing?" "Estimated 200 individuals, sir." Vex roared in fury. 200 soldiers were destroying his occupation force of 3,000. It was impossible. Send in the heavy assault teams. Crush these insects. The Chromax heavy assault teams were their elite units, warriors in powered armor, carrying the most destructive weapons in their arsenal. 2 full companies, over 100 soldiers, moved to engage the human forces. They encountered Captain Lisa Wong's company in the Central Market District. Lisa had been expecting heavier resistance. Her soldiers took cover behind destroyed vehicles and building rubble. Preparing for the assault, the Chromax came charging across the open plaza, their armor gleaming and weapons blazing. They expected their overwhelming firepower to scatter the human forces. Instead, they ran into a carefully prepared killing field. Human weapons technology, forged in the fires of Earth's endless conflicts, proved superior to everything the Chromax could deploy. Anti-armor missiles streaked across the battlefield, each one guided by advanced targeting systems. Heavy machine guns fired depleted uranium rounds that punched through Chromax power armor like paper. The elite Chromax assault teams lasted less than 10 minutes. As the sun set over Serenity Prime, Warlord Vex found himself trapped in the government building with the last 50 of his soldiers. Outside, human forces were advancing steadily through the city, eliminating every Chromax position they encountered. For the first time in his military career, Vex felt something he had never experienced before: fear. These humans fought with a precision and brutality that surpassed even Chromax warriors. They showed no mercy, took no prisoners, and seemed to feel no emotion as they systematically destroyed his forces. Sir Drac's voice was shaking. "Perhaps we should request reinforcement from the fleet." Vex looked at the tactical display one more time. In 6 hours, these humans had reduced his invasion force from 3,000 to 50 soldiers. None of them would survive the night. "Send the message," he said quietly. Tell them we need immediate evacuation. But even as he spoke, Vex wondered if help would arrive in time. Outside the building, he could hear the sounds of human forces moving closer. Soon, these terrifying predators would come for him personally. The government building fell silent as human forces surrounded it completely. Commander Jake Torres stood outside the main entrance, studying the tactical displays on his wrist computer. His soldiers had positioned themselves at every exit, every window, every possible escape route. "All teams report ready," came the voice of Lieutenant Eva Cross through his comm system. Jake nodded to his demolition specialist, breached the main doors. The explosion that followed shook the entire building. Smoke and debris filled the air. As human Marines poured through the opening, they moved with deadly precision, clearing each room systematically. The remaining Chromax soldiers fought desperately, but they were no match for human tactics and technology. Within 20 minutes, Warlord Vex found himself kneeling in the building's central chamber, his hands bound behind his back. Blood ran from a cut above his eye, and his one-sprout armor was cracked and scorched. Around him lay the bodies of his final defenders. Jake stood over the captured Chromax leader, his weapon still smoking from the brief firefight. Behind him, other human soldiers secured the area and tended to their equipment. Not one human had been seriously injured in the assault. "You are Warlord Vex," Jake said. It was not a question. Vex raised his head defiantly. "I am, and you are the leader of these demons? Commander Torres, Terran Marine Corps, you are now a prisoner of war." War. Vex laughed bitterly. This was not war. This was slaughter. "What kind of species are you?" Jake did not answer. Instead, he activated his communication device. "General Kane, the primary target is secured, ready for transport." General Marcus Kane arrived 30 minutes later with a full security detail. He studied the captured Chromax warlord with cold interest. Behind him walked a man in a different uniform, someone Vex had not seen before. "This is Intelligence Officer Brooks," Marcus explained. "He has some questions for you." Brooks stepped forward. He was smaller than the other humans, but something about his eyes made Vex feel deeply uncomfortable. This human looked at him like he was examining an interesting specimen. "Warlord Vex," Brooks said pleasantly, "you will provide us with complete information about Chromax military installations, fleet positions, and command structures." "I will tell you nothing," Vex snarled. Brooks smiled. "We will see." What followed made even hardened human Marines look away. Brooks used methods that the Geneva Convention on Earth had banned centuries ago. But those rules did not apply to alien species. The interrogation lasted 6 hours. By the end, Vex had provided detailed information about every Chromax stronghold within 50 light years. Meanwhile, on the surface of Serenity Prime, Captain Lisa Wong supervised the construction of massive human military installations. Her engineering corps worked around the clock, using advanced fabrication technology to build defensive positions throughout the city. Council leader Nira arrived at the construction site with diplomat Finn, hoping to thank their human rescuers personally. What they found disturbed them greatly. The humans were not building temporary shelters or medical facilities. They were constructing permanent military bases, complete with weapon emplacements, communication arrays, and housing for thousands of soldiers. Captain Wong Nira called out as she approached the human commander. Lisa turned from her construction plans. She was a tall woman with short black hair and cybernetic implants visible around her eyes. "Council leader, how can I help you? We wanted to thank you for saving our world." Nira began carefully. "But I must ask, why are you building permanent installations?" "Security purposes," Lisa replied simply. "These bases will ensure that the Chromax never threaten your world again." "That is very generous," Diplomat Finn interjected. "But surely temporary measures would be sufficient? Our own defense forces can handle local security once we rebuild." Lisa's expression hardened slightly. "With respect, your defense forces failed completely against the Chromax. Earth policy is clear. We do not abandon worlds under our protection." Protection. Nira felt a chill run down her spine. We did not request to be placed under human protection. We requested aid against the Chromax threat, Lisa explained patiently. Human aid includes ensuring the threat does not return. Yes. These installations are necessary for your continued safety. Finn stepped forward. Captain, we appreciate your help, but the Velenar Federation is a sovereign government. We must discuss any permanent human presence through proper diplomatic channels. Lisa's smile was not warm. The diplomatic channels you speak of failed to protect you from the Chromax. Human protection is more reliable. Over the following days, similar conversations took place across Velenari space. Human forces were establishing bases on every world they had liberated from Chromax occupation. When Velenari officials questioned these actions, human commanders gave the same response: security requirements. Admiral Kess found himself in an increasingly uncomfortable position. The human fleet remained in orbit around every major Velenari world. Their weapons trained outward, but ready to be redirected at any moment. When he tried to resume normal Velenari patrol operations, Captain Morrison politely but firmly informed him that human forces would handle all security matters. Admiral Morrison explained during one of their regular communications, "Your ships are not equipped to handle threats like the Chromax. It is better if you focus on civilian reconstruction, while we manage defense." "Captain, the Chromax threat has been eliminated," Kess replied. "Surely our own forces can resume normal operations." "The Chromax Empire still exists," Morrison reminded him. "They have fleets in dozens of other systems. Until that threat is completely neutralized, human forces will maintain protective positions." Kess wanted to argue, but the tactical displays told the truth. Human ships were more advanced than anything in the Velenari fleet. If these allies decided to become enemies, there would be nothing the Velenari could do to stop them. In the intelligence, a facility that humans had constructed outside Villach City, Brooks continued his interrogation of captured Chromax officers. The information he gathered was being used to plan strikes against Chromax positions throughout the region. Each successful attack brought more Chromax prisoners, more intelligence about enemy operations. But the Velenari began to notice that Brooks was asking questions beyond military matters. He wanted to know about Chromax technology, their industrial capacity, their trade routes, and their client species. It seemed the humans were planning something much larger than simple defense. "Need to discuss this situation with the human leadership," Nira told her council during an emergency session. "What situation?" asked Defense Minister Olan. "They saved us from extinction, and now they are occupying our worlds," Nira replied. "Look at the reports. Human soldiers patrol our streets. Human ships control our space. Human commanders make decisions about our security without consulting us. Perhaps that is necessary," suggested Science Director Pax. "The humans clearly understand warfare better than we do." "For how long?" Nira demanded. "When do they leave? When do we regain control of our own territory?" No one had an answer to that question. That evening, Nira requested a meeting with Admiral Morrison. The human leader agreed to see her aboard his flagship, a massive vessel that dwarfed anything in the Velenari fleet. Council Leader Morrison greeted her in his ready room. "How can Earth be of service?" Nira chose her words carefully. "Admiral, your people have saved us from certain destruction. We will be forever grateful. But we must discuss the future of human presence in Velenari space." Morrison's expression did not change. "What concerns do you have? When will human forces withdraw from our worlds?" The silence that followed lasted nearly a minute. When Morrison finally spoke, his words chilled Nira to her core. "Council Leader, Earth does not abandon its allies. The Velenar Federation is now under human protection. That protection is permanent." 6 months had passed since the first human ships arrived in Velenari space. The Chromax Empire, once the terror of the galaxy, lay in complete ruins. Their fleets were destroyed, their worlds occupied, and their leadership either dead or imprisoned in human detention facilities. What had taken the Chromax centuries to build, the humans had destroyed in half a year. President David Clark sat in his office aboard the massive command ship Terra's Will, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. The ship served as the mobile headquarters for Earth's expanding sphere of influence. Through the viewing port, He could see human vessels patrolling the space around what was once the Chromax capital world. "Sir," his aide, Colonel Watson, entered the room. "The Galactic Council has agreed to your request for a formal address." "Oh." David nodded. It was time to make Earth's position clear to the rest of the galaxy. The other species had watched in stunned silence as humanity systematically dismantled the Chromax Empire. Now they needed to understand the new reality. The holographic communication system activated. Connecting David to representatives from dozens of alien civilizations, a council chamber appeared around him, filled with beings of various shapes and sizes. All of them looked nervous. "Honored delegates," David began, his voice calm and measured. "I come before you today to discuss the recent humanitarian mission in Velinari space." Ambassador Zith of the Galactic Trade Union leaned forward. "President Clark, while we appreciate your assistance to the Velinari, many species are concerned about the scope of human military operations. Our operations were a direct response to a legitimate request for aid," David replied. "The Velinari Federation faced extinction." Earth responded appropriately. "Appropriately?" Ambassador Krell of the Zenthari Republic interjected. "You destroyed an entire interstellar empire. Hundreds of worlds now exist under human military occupation." David's expression did not change. Chromax Empire was a threat to galactic peace. Our response ensured that this threat will never resurface. As for occupation, we prefer the term protection services. On the Velinar homeworld, Council Leader Nira watched the broadcast from her office in the rebuilt government center. Around her sat the members of her council, all of them looking uncomfortable. Outside the windows, human soldiers could be seen patrolling the streets in their black armor. "He makes it sound like we had a choice," muttered Diplomat Finn. Defense Minister Olin shifted nervously. "Perhaps we should be grateful." "The humans did save us, did they?" Nira asked quietly. "Or did they simply replace one occupying force with another?" The changes to Velinari society had been dramatic and swift. Human military advisors now sat in on all government meetings. Velinar children attended new schools where they learned about defensive preparedness alongside traditional subjects. The pacifist philosophy that had guided their civilization for a millennium was being systematically replaced with human concepts of practical security. Back in the council chamber, President Clark continued his address. "Earth's policy regarding humanitarian assistance is simple. We ensure that threats are permanently neutralized. We do not provide temporary solutions that allow problems to return." "What about the sovereignty of the species you protect?" demanded Ambassador Yex of the Free Colonies Alliance. "Sovereignty is meaningless if a species cannot defend itself," David replied. "The Velinari learned this lesson when the Chromax arrived. Earth ensures that our allies never face such helplessness again." Admiral Morrison stood in the command center of his flagship, watching the diplomatic transmission while monitoring fleet operations across human-controlled space. His ships were now positioned in 12 different star systems, all supposedly under protective status. Each fleet was larger and more powerful than most species could field in their entire military. Admiral Communications Officer Gray reported, "Long-range sensors are detecting a distress signal from the Arcturus sector. The Harmonic Collective is under attack by pirate fleets." Morrison smiled slightly. "Another opportunity for Earth to demonstrate its humanitarian principles. Prepare. A relief force. Standard humanitarian package." "Sir, what size force should we deploy?" 3 battle groups should be sufficient for pirate suppression," Morrison replied. "And Gray, make sure we include construction ships for base establishment. The Harmonic Collective will need ongoing protection once we eliminate the pirate threat." In the Galactic Council chamber, the delegates were becoming increasingly agitated. Ambassador Vorn of the Peaceful Systems Consortium stood up. "President Clark, your definition of humanitarian aid seems to include permanent military occupation. How is this different from conquest?" David's smile was cold. "The difference, Ambassador, is that conquest involves taking something by force. Humanitarian aid involves giving something that was requested. The Velinari asked for help. Earth provided help. The fact that our help is more comprehensive than expected does not make it conquest. But what about species that do not request your help, Ambassador? Zith asked. Earth has no interest in interfering with species that can handle their own problems, David replied. However, when species prove incapable of defending themselves or maintaining galactic peace, intervention becomes necessary. On Velox Prime, former Admiral Kess stood in what had once been the Velinari Fleet Command Center. It served as a subsidiary office for human naval operations. Human officers worked alongside Velinari personnel, but it was clear who held real authority. Captain Rex Morrison entered the command center, reviewing reports on his tablet. Admiral Kess, I need updated sensor data on the outer system patrol routes. Of course, Captain Kess replied. He still held his rank, but everyone understood that human commanders made all important decisions. How are your people adapting to the new security protocols? Rex asked. Kess considered his answer carefully. There has been some resistance to certain changes. Many Velinari still believe in our traditional peaceful methods that failed completely against the Chromax, Rex reminded him. Earth is helping your people develop more practical approaches to survival. Some of our citizens feel that these changes are transforming our entire culture. Rex looked up from his tablet. Admiral, culture is worthless if the species does not survive. Earth is ensuring Velinari survival. Cultural adaptation is a small price to pay for continued existence. The broadcast from the Galactic Council continued. Ambassador Mel of the Academic Union spoke up. President Clark, many species are now afraid to request any assistance from Earth, fearing permanent occupation. That is unfortunate, David replied. Earth's aid has proven highly effective. The Velinar Federation is now more secure than it has ever been. Their economy is growing under human guidance. Their military capabilities are improving daily. They are stronger than before. Are they free? Ambassador Mel pressed. They are free from the threat of extinction, David answered. They are free from the fear of invasion. They are free from the need to worry about their own defense. Earth provides many types of freedom. In the intelligence facility outside Velox City, Brooks finished reviewing the latest reports from human forces across the galaxy. The information gathered from Chromax prisoners had led to successful operations against dozens of criminal organizations, pirate fleets, and aggressive species. Each success provided justification for expanded human presence in new sectors. New crisis created opportunities for humanitarian intervention. The pattern was becoming clear to anyone who studied it carefully. Sir, his assistant reported. We have confirmation that the Arcturus relief mission has successfully eliminated the pirate threat. Excellent, Brooks replied. And the status of harmonic collective leadership? They have agreed to accept permanent human protection services. Construction of bases begins next week. Brooks nodded and made notes in his files. Another species had learned the benefits of human aid. The galaxy was becoming a safer place under Earth's guidance. As President Clark concluded his address to the Galactic Council, his final words resonated across known space. Earth stands ready to assist any species facing threats they cannot handle alone. Our aid is comprehensive, effective, and permanent. The galaxy is entering a new era of peace through strength. The transmission ended, leaving the council delegates in uncomfortable silence. Outside their chambers, long-range sensors detected human ships moving toward the next crisis. The next opportunity for humanitarian assistance. The age of human protection had begun. The blue sun of Kepler 4-4 to be cast long shadows across the crystal cities of Volani Prime. Commander Yalan stood at the observation deck of the Planetary Defense Center,
while watching the peaceful daily life of his people below.
Children played in the floating gardens while their parents worked in harmony with nature and technology. The Volani had built a perfect society over thousands of years, one without war or violence. But peace was about to end. Commander, urgent message from the outer monitoring stations, called Officer Dex from across the control room. His voice carried fear that made Yalan's blood run cold. Yalan walked quickly to the main display screen. The image showed dark shapes. Moving through space, too many to count. Each ship was massive, built for destruction rather than exploration. The Havrok Empire had found them. "How long do we have?" Elon asked, though he already knew the answer would not be good. 6 months, maybe less, Dex replied. "The Havrok fleet is moving at full speed toward our system. Our scouts report over. 500 warships." Elon closed his eyes. The Volani had no weapons, no warships, no way to fight. They were scientists, artists, and philosophers. They had never needed to learn the art of war. "Send messages to all our colonies," Elon ordered. "Tell them to prepare evacuation ships. We cannot fight the Havrok, but we can try to save our people." But even as he spoke, Elon knew it was hopeless. The Havrok Empire had destroyed over 200 worlds. They took what they wanted and enslaved or killed the rest. No one had ever successfully fought them. 3 hours later, Elon sat in an emergency council meeting with the planet's leaders. Elder Kira, the oldest and wisest of their people, spoke first. "We have one choice," she said slowly. "We must ask. For help? From whom?" asked Council Leader Vex. "Every species in the galaxy fears the Havrok. No one will risk their own worlds to save ours." Elder Kira looked at the star charts on the wall. "There are new signals from the far edge of the galaxy, young species called humans. They come from a world called Earth." "What do we know about them?" Elon asked. "Very little," Kira admitted. "But their signals show they have advanced technology. And their world seems to be what the old texts call a death world, a planet so dangerous that it creates strong survivors." The council fell silent. Death worlds were rare, and the species that came from them were often powerful warriors. But they were also unpredictable. "We have no choice," Elon said finally. "Prepare the strongest signal we can send. If these humans are warriors, maybe they will help us." Meanwhile, millions of light years away, Dr. Mira Blackwood sat in the Deep Space Communication Array on Earth's moon. She had been listening to the stars for 15 years, hoping to find proof that humanity was not alone in the universe. Tonight, she was about to get her wish. The signal came at 2:47 a.m., Earth time. It was strong, clearly artificial, and unlike anything she had ever heard. Her hands shook as she began recording and analyzing the transmission. "This is incredible," she whispered to herself. The signal was complex, mathematical, and beautiful. It was definitely from an intelligent species. She worked for 3 days straight, barely sleeping, as she tried to decode the message. The breakthrough came when she realized the signal contained universal mathematical constants, the same numbers that would be true anywhere in the universe. When the translation was complete, Dr. Blackwood stared at her screen in shock. It was a cry for help from a species called the Volani. They were peaceful people being attacked by something called the Havrok Empire. They needed military assistance, and they needed it fast. She picked up her phone and called Admiral Kane Torres, the commander of Earth's 7th Battle Fleet. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," she said 2 hours later. Admiral Torres stood in the communication center, reading the translated message. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars from many battles. He had fought pirates in the asteroid belt and rebel colonies on Mars. But this was different. "Are you certain this is real?" he asked Dr. Blackwood. "Yes, sir. The signal is definitely from an alien species. They're asking for help against something called the Havrok Empire." Studied the message again. The Volani had included star charts showing their location and the approaching enemy fleet. They had also included basic information about their technology and society. "They're pacifists," Torres said after reading. "They have no weapons, no military. They're like sheep asking wolves for protection. Will we help them?" Dr. Blackwood asked. Torres was quiet for a long moment. "That's not my decision to make." The next day, the message was presented to Earth's High Command. The room was filled with generals, admirals, and politicians. They had been dreaming of this moment, first contact with an alien species, but no one had expected it to come as a request for military aid. "The signal is real," confirmed Dr. Blackwood. "The Volani are peaceful people facing extinction. They've calculated that the Havrok fleet will reach their system in 6 months. General Patricia Stone, the head of Earth's military, spoke first. We know nothing about these Havrok. They could be more advanced than us. This could be a trap. Or it could be humanity's chance to make allies in the galaxy, replied Admiral Torres. The Villani have advanced technology. It could be valuable friends. The debate continued for hours. Some argued that Earth should stay hidden, that getting involved in alien wars was too dangerous. Others believed that helping the Villani was the right thing to do. Finally, President Martinez made the decision. We will send a fleet to assist the Villani. Admiral Torres, you will command the mission. Take your best ships and your most experienced crews. Torres nodded. How many ships? Can I take? Everything you need, the president replied. This is humanity's first contact with alien life. We will not let them face extinction alone. 1 week later, Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Vengeance. Around him, the 7th Battle Fleet was preparing for the longest journey in human history. 50 warships, carrying humanity's most advanced weapons, and 15,000 of Earth's finest warriors. All ships report ready, Admiral, announced Captain Rex Morrison from the communication station. Torres looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a peaceful species was waiting for help. Somewhere else, an empire of conquerors was preparing. To destroy them, begin jump sequence, Torres ordered. It's time to show the galaxy what humans can do. The fleet disappeared into hyperspace, beginning humanity's first interstellar war. None of them knew that this mission would change the galaxy forever, or that Earth's reputation as a death world was about to be proven in the most dramatic way possible. The massive human fleet moved through hyperspace like a pack of metal wolves hunting in the dark. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace through the main view screen. They'd been traveling for 2 weeks and still had months to go before reaching Villani space. Admiral, incoming message from Earth's command, announced Lieutenant Commander Nova. Sterling from the communications station. Torres walked over to the secure communication panel. The message was brief, but troubling. Earth's deep space sensors had detected new signals from the Villani system. The Havrok fleet was moving faster than expected, sir. What does this mean? Asked Captain Rex Morrison, the ship's commanding officer. It means we're racing against time, Torres replied. The Havrok will reach the Villani in 4 months, not 6. We need to push our engines harder. Chief Engineer Pavel Volkov shook his head. Admiral, we're already running at 90% capacity. If we push harder, we risk damaging the hyperspace drives. Torres looked at the star charts again. Do it anyway. We didn't come this far to arrive too late. As the fleet increased speed, the crews prepared for the unknown.
Major Lisa.
Chen walked through the Marine barracks on the EU's Terran Hammer, inspecting her soldiers. These were Earth's finest warriors, trained in the harsh environments of Earth's colonies and battle zones. Listen up, Chen called to her troops. We're heading into humanity's first alien war. We don't know what we're going to face, but I know. One thing, we're the children of Earth, and Earth doesn't raise weaklings. Sergeant Jake Rodriguez raised his hand. Major, what do we know about these Havrok? Not much, Chen admitted. But we know they've conquered over 200 worlds. They use fear in overwhelming numbers to win their battles. They've never faced humans before. She walked to the wall display showing images of Earth. Remember where we come from? Earth is a death world, a planet so dangerous that most species would die just trying to survive there. We have ice ages, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, earthquakes, and deadly animals. We survived all of that and became the dominant species. The Marines nodded. They had all heard the stories of humanity's violent past, wars that lasted centuries, civilizations that rose and fell, species that went extinct while humans adapted and survived. The Havrok think they're apex predators, Chen continued. They're about to learn what real predators look like. Meanwhile, in the fleet's research section, Dr. Emma Watson studied the limited data they had about both alien species. The Villani seemed peaceful, almost fragile compared to humans. Their technology was advanced, but focused on science and exploration, not warfare. The Havrok were different. Every report described them as brutal conquerors who showed no mercy. They were physically strong, technologically advanced, and had never lost a major battle. "Dr. Watson, what's your assessment?" asked Admiral Torres as he visited the research lab. "The Havrock are formidable, but they have weaknesses," Watson replied. "They rely on fear and superior numbers. Their tactics are predictable. They overwhelm their enemies with massive fleets and brutal attacks. And the Volani, they're highly intelligent but completely peaceful. They've never developed weapons or military tactics. They're everything. We're not." Torres nodded thoughtfully. "That might be exactly what we need. Intelligence officers report to the briefing room." In the briefing room, Torres addressed his senior staff. "Need to understand what makes humans different."
Hey.
Commander Blake Foster, the fleet's military historian, stepped forward. "Sir, it goes back to Earth's environment. Most inhabited worlds in the galaxy are stable, peaceful places. Earth is chaos. We have weather that can kill, animals that hunt us, diseases that wipe out entire populations." He activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Humans survived by becoming adaptable. When the ice ages came, we learned to make fire and build shelters. When large predators hunted us, we developed weapons and tactics. When diseases killed our people, we developed medicine. The display showed images of human warfare throughout history. Ancient battles with swords and shields, medieval sieges, world wars with millions of casualties, and finally space battles. Around Earth's colonies, we're the only species that turned warfare into an art form, Foster continued. Most aliens fight for territory or resources. Humans fight for ideas, for survival, for the future of our species. We don't just win battles. We adapt, learn, and become stronger, Captain Morrison asked. "How does this help us against the Havrock?" Admiral Torres smiled grimly, because the Havrock have never faced a species like us. They conquer peaceful worlds and weak civilizations. They use the same tactics over and over because they always work. He pointed to the tactical display. "Humans don't fight like other species. We're unpredictable, use guerrilla tactics, psychological warfare, and adaptive strategies. We turn every disadvantage into an advantage." The weeks passed as the fleet traveled deeper into space. The crews trained constantly, preparing for battles they couldn't imagine. Human pilots practiced combat maneuvers that would be impossible for most alien species to survive. The GI forces alone would kill most non-humans. In the weapons bay, technicians worked on humanity's secret advantages, kinetic weapons that fired projectiles at incredible speeds, nuclear missiles that could destroy entire ships, and energy weapons designed to punch through the strongest shields. "The beauty of human weapons," explained Weapons Officer Tom Bradley, "is that they're simple and effective. Most aliens develop complex technologies that can be disrupted or countered. Human weapons are basic physics, mass, velocity, and explosive force." He showed the crew a simple railgun round. "This piece of metal, fired at the right speed, can penetrate any known armor. Doesn't need special technology or exotic materials, just pure kinetic energy." The Marines trained in combat scenarios, learning to fight in zero gravity and hostile environments. Major Chen pushed them hard, knowing that their lives might depend on their preparation. "Remember," she told them during a training exercise, "most alien species evolved on safe worlds. They've never had to develop the reflexes and instincts that we have. They think in terms of overwhelming force. We think in terms of survival." As the fleet approached the halfway point of their journey, Admiral Torres received another message. From the Volani was a detailed report on Havrock tactics and technology, along with desperate pleas for help. The Volani had been monitoring the approaching Havrock fleet. The enemy was using standard intimidation tactics, broadcasting messages of surrender, demands, and threatening total destruction. It was the same approach they had used on 200 other worlds. "They don't know what's coming," Torres said. To his senior staff, "The Havrock expect the Volani to surrender or die. They don't expect anyone to fight back, especially not humans." He looked at the faces around him, warriors, scientists, and engineers who had grown up on humanity's harsh worlds. They were the products of millions of years of evolution in Earth's deadly environment. "We're going to give the galaxy a lesson in death world tactics," Torres announced. It's time to show them why Earth's children are the most dangerous species in the universe. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Volani system with the precision of a military operation. 50 warships materialized in formation, their dark holes gleaming under the light of the blue star. But what they saw made every crew member's blood run cold. The battle had already begun. Admiral sensors are detecting multiple explosions on the planet's surface, reported Lieutenant Commander Nova Sterling from her tactical station. The Havrok are bombarding Volani cities. Admiral Torres gripped the command rail tighter. Through the view screen, he could see the beautiful blue world of Volani Prime under attack. Massive Havrok warships hung in orbit like metal vultures, firing destructive beams at the defenseless planet below. "How many Havrok ships?" Torres asked. 67. "Combat vessels, sir," Sterling replied. "They're using a standard orbital bombardment pattern. The Volani civilian ships are trying to evacuate, but many are being destroyed." Captain Morrison stepped beside the admiral. "Sir, we're outnumbered, and they have the tactical advantage. They control the high orbit." Torres studied the tactical display. The Havrok fleet was massive, each ship larger than anything in the human fleet. But something about their formation bothered him. They were arranged in a perfect attack line, following textbook procedures. "They're not expecting a fight," Torres realized. "Look at their positioning. They're set up for bombardment, not ship-to-ship combat." On the surface of Volani Prime, Commander Yalan watched the sky burn from his emergency bunker. The Havrok had arrived 3 days ago and immediately began their attack. The beautiful crystal cities were being reduced to ruins, and millions of his people were trapped. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the outer system," reported Officer Dex, his voice filled with excitement. "It's not Havrok. The signal is coming from unknown ships." Yellen's heart jumped. Could it be the humans? "The transmission is using the same mathematical patterns we sent in our distress call," Dex confirmed. "Sir, I think our message was received." Meanwhile, aboard the Havrok command ship, Warlord Krex stood before his tactical display, watching the destruction of another world.
Oh.
The Volani had proven even weaker than expected. Their pathetic evacuation attempts were almost insulting. "Warlord, we're detecting new ships entering the system," announced his tactical officer. 50 vessels, unknown configuration. Krex barely looked up from his reports. "It's probably Volani, reinforcements from another world. Destroy them."
Sir, these
Ships are not Volani design. They appear to be a completely unknown species. Now Krex paid attention. He walked to the display and studied the incoming ships. They were smaller than Havrok vessels, but moved with military precision. Their hulls were dark and angular, built for war rather than exploration. "Send them a standard warning," Krex ordered. "Tell them to leave immediately or be destroyed." The human fleet received the Havrok transmission within minutes. The message was simple and brutal. Surrender or die. It was clearly a species used to being obeyed without question. "Admiral, we're also receiving a transmission from the planet," reported Communications Officer Davis. "It's from the Volani. They're thanking us for coming and offering to share tactical data." Torres made his decision quickly. "Open channels to both the Havrok and Volani simultaneously. It's time for first contact." The communication screens activated, showing two very different alien faces. On one side was Commander Yalan, a tall, elegant being with blue skin and large, intelligent eyes. On the other was Warlord Krex, a massive creature with armored hide and predatory features. "I am Admiral Torres of the Human Federation," Torres announced. "This is the Earth fleet responding to the Volani distress call." Commander Yellen's eyes filled with hope. "Admiral, we are grateful beyond words. The Havrok have been destroying our world for 3 days. We have no weapons, no way to fight back." Warlord Krex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Humans. I have never heard of this species. You have made a mistake coming here, Admiral. The Volani belong to the Havrok Empire now. Leave immediately, or share their fate." Torres studied both aliens carefully. The Volani were clearly peaceful, refined beings who had never known war. The Havarok were natural predators used to intimidating their enemies into submission. Warlord Krex, I'm giving you one chance, Torres said calmly. Stop your attack on the Villani and withdraw from the system. You have 10 minutes to comply. Krex's eyes widened in disbelief. No species had ever spoken to the Havarok with such boldness. You dare to threaten me? I command 300 warships. I have conquered worlds while your species was still learning. To make fire. Commanded 300 ships, Torres corrected. I count 67, and those odds aren't as bad as you think. The Havarok warlord stood to his full height, towering over the communication screen. I will enjoy adding your species to our slave worlds. Your ships will be destroyed, and your people will serve the Havarok Empire for 1,000 years. Torres remained calm. That's an interesting threat from someone who's never fought a Death World species. Death World. Krex paused. The term was known in galactic history, but Death World species were rare and dangerous. Commander Yalan Torres said, turning to the Villani. Please transmit all tactical data about Havarok weapons and defenses. We're going to need it, Yalan nodded quickly. Sending now, Admiral. Shields are strongest at the front and weakest at the engine sections. Their weapons are powerful, but have limited firing arcs. The data flowed into the human fleet's computers. Within minutes, the tactical officers had analyzed Havarok ship designs and weapon systems. The enemy had superior firepower but poor maneuverability. Interesting, Torres murmured. They're built for intimidation, not actual combat. Warlord Krex grew impatient. Enough talk. All ships, prepare to destroy the human fleet. Show them the power of the Havarok Empire. The Havarok ships began turning toward the human fleet, their massive weapons charging. Energy readings spiked across the system as the alien warships prepared for battle. Admiral, they're powering weapons, reported Lieutenant Commander Sterling. Multiple targeting locks detected. Torres looked at the tactical display one more time. 67 Havarok ships against 50 human vessels. On paper, it should be an easy victory for the Havarok, but they had never faced humans before. All ships, battle stations, Torres commanded. Prepare for combat. Communications. Send a message to Earth Command. What should the message say? Sir, asked Communications Officer Davis. Torres smiled grimly. Tell them that humanity has made contact with alien life, and we're about to give them a demonstration of Death World tactics. The human fleet spread into combat formation, their movements coordinated and precise. Each ship took position according to plans that had been practiced for weeks during the journey, sir. The Havarok are firing, Sterling announced. Energy beams lanced across space toward the human ships. But where the Havarok expected to see explosions and destruction, they saw something impossible. The human fleet scattered like a school of fish, each ship moving in a different direction. How are they moving so fast? Krex demanded from his command. Shipped his tactical officer checked the readings twice. Sir, their acceleration rates are impossible. Those GI forces should kill any crew, but the humans weren't just evading. As the Havarok ships fired their first volley, the human fleet was already moving into attack position. They're smaller, faster. Ships darted between the larger Havarok vessels like wolves attacking a herd. All ships, Torres commanded, you are weapons free. Show them what Deathworlders can do. The first human weapons fire lit up the darkness of space like deadly fireworks. Railgun rounds traveling at impossible speeds punched through Havarok shields as if they were paper. The alien ships, built to intimidate rather than fight agile. Opponents found themselves under attack from directions they had never considered. Impossible. Warlord Krex roared as 3 of his ships exploded in quick succession. How are they penetrating our shields? His tactical officer stared at the readings in disbelief. Sir, they're using kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds. Our energy shields can't deflect solid matter moving that fast. The human fleet moved like a pack of predators, each ship covering another as they struck at the Havarok formation. Captain Sophia Reyes piloted her stealth fighter through the chaos. Her small craft invisible to Havarok sensors. Ghost Squadron. This is Ghost Leader. She transmitted to her fighter wing. We're going for the command ship. Stay low and use the debris field for cover. Her squadron of 12 fighters darted between the massive Havrock vessels, too small and fast for the enemy weapons to track. The Havok had never faced opponents who used hit-and-run tactics. They were used to enemies who stood and fought in traditional battle lines. On the EU's Terran Hammer, Major Lisa Chen prepared her Marines for the most dangerous mission of their lives. The ship's assault pods were ready to launch, each one carrying 12 heavily armed soldiers. "Remember your training," Chen told her troops over the communication system. Havrock ships have artificial gravity and atmosphere. Once we breach their holes, we fight room by room. These aliens have never faced humans in close combat. Colonel Marcus Webb, the leader of the Orbital Assault Division, checked his weapons one final time. His team was about to attempt something that no species had ever tried: boarding Havrock warships during active combat. Teams Alpha through Delta. "Prepare for launch," Webb commanded. "Target the damaged Havrock cruiser. Intelligence reports show their security systems are failing." The assault pods shot out from the human ships like bullets, their armored shells designed to punch through enemy hulls. The Havrock point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but the pods were too small and moved too fast. Meanwhile, the main battle continued to rage. Admiral Torres watched from his command bridge as his ships demonstrated the advantages of Deathworld evolution. Human pilots could withstand GI forces that would kill most aliens. Human reaction times, honed by millions of years of surviving Earth's predators, were faster than Havrock response systems. "Admiral, the enemy is trying to reform their battle line," reported Lieutenant Commander Sterling. "They're pulling back to create distance." Torres smiled. The Havrock were doing exactly what he expected. They were trying to use their superior firepower at long range, where their larger ships had an advantage. "All ships. Activate Ghost Protocol," Torres ordered. The human fleet suddenly seemed to vanish. Advanced stealth technology, developed from decades of fighting in Earth's asteroid belts, made the ships nearly invisible to Havrock sensors. The enemy found themselves firing at shadows. "Where did they go?" Krex demanded. His tactical display showed empty space where the human fleet had been moments before. "Sir, we're detecting massive electromagnetic interference," his sensor officer reported. "They're jamming our targeting systems." The first assault pod smashed through the hull of a damaged Havrock cruiser with the force of a meteor. Colonel Webb and his team poured through the breach, their powered armor allowing them to move in the ship's heavy gravity. The Havrock crew had never seen anything like humans in combat. Webb's soldiers moved with deadly precision, their enhanced reflexes and training making them unstoppable in close quarters. The aliens were strong and tough, but they fought as individuals. Humans fought as a coordinated unit. As Sector 7 secured, Webb reported as his team cleared another compartment. Moving toward the bridge, Havrock tried to stop the human boarding parties with security teams, but it was hopeless. Humans had evolved fighting each other in countless wars. They understood tactics, teamwork, and adaptation in ways the Havrock couldn't comprehend. Captain Reyes and her fighter squadron reached the Havrock command ship just as its shields failed under bombardment from human destroyers. Her fighters carried special weapons designed for precise strikes, nuclear charges that could disable a ship without destroying it completely. "Ghost Squadron, target the command tower," Reyes ordered. "We need Krex alive for interrogation." Her fighters dove toward the massive Havrock flagship, dodging defensive fire with maneuvers that would be impossible for most alien pilots. The nuclear charges detonated against the ship's superstructure, crippling its command systems. Inside the Havrock command ship, emergency lights flashed as systems failed throughout the vessel. Warlord Krex found himself trapped on a bridge that was rapidly losing power and life support. "All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance," he ordered desperately. "Reform the battle line and prepare for long-range bombardment."
Out.
But his remaining ships were scattered and damaged. The human fleet had struck like lightning, targeting weak points and using tactics the Havrock had never encountered. Nearly half of Krex's ships were destroyed or disabled. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human admiral, his communication officer reported." Torres appeared on the screen again, but now he looked different. This wasn't the diplomatic figure from before. This was a warrior who had just demonstrated the power of his species. Warlord Krex, I offered you a chance to withdraw peacefully. Tora said calmly. You chose to fight instead. Now, you've seen what happens when you threaten a species under human protection. Krex tried to maintain his dignity despite the destruction. Around him, this isn't over, human. The Havrak Empire has thousands of ships. You have won one battle, but you cannot win the war. Maybe not, Torres admitted. But we've learned something important about your ships, your tactics, and your weaknesses. Every battle will be easier than this one. On the planet below, Commander. Yalan watched in amazement as the human fleet systematically dismantled the Havrak forces. The aliens who had seemed invincible just hours ago were now retreating in disorder. Are they doing this? Officer Dex asked in wonder. They're predators, Yalan realized. Not like the Havrak, who use brute force. The humans are intelligent predators. They study their prey and strike at the perfect moment. The battle was turning into a rout. Human ships pursued fleeing Havrak vessels, destroying them one by one. The enemy's superior numbers meant nothing when they couldn't coordinate their attacks or defend against human tactics. Major Chen's Marines had secured 3 Havrak ships, capturing valuable intelligence and prisoners. Colonel Webb's assault teams were teaching the galaxy a new lesson that humans were just as dangerous inside enemy ships as they were in space combat. Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting new contacts, Sterling suddenly announced.
Multiple.
Ships dropping out of hyperspace at the system's edge. Torres felt his blood turn cold. Through the tactical display, he could see the massive energy signatures of an approaching fleet. These ships were even larger than the ones they had just fought. How many? He asked, though he already knew the answer would not be good. Over. 500 ships, sir, Sterling replied quietly. It's the main Havrak fleet, and they're carrying something we've never seen before. A ship the size of a small moon. Torres stared at the readings. They had won their first battle against alien forces, but the real test was just beginning. The Havrak Empire had sent everything they had to crush this new threat to their dominance. All ships, regroup on my position, Torres commanded. It looks like we're about to find out just how deadly Deathworlders really are. The massive Havrak reinforcement fleet emerged from hyperspace like a dark tide of destruction. Over 500 warships, each one larger and more heavily armed than anything the humans had faced before. At the center of the formation was a ship so enormous it blocked out the stars, the Planet Killer, a weapon capable of destroying entire worlds. Emperor Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the tactical display with cold fury. The reports from Warlord Krex had been humiliating. The unknown species had defeated Havrak forces using primitive kinetic weapons and impossible tactics. Show me these humans, Thrax commanded. The view screen displayed the human fleet regrouping. Near Villani Prime, 50 ships, many of them damaged from the previous battle, facing an armada 10 times their size. To Emperor Thrax, it looked like suicide. They're smaller than I expected, he said dismissively. How did Krex lose to such a weak force? General Vexstar, his chief military advisor, studied the human formations carefully. My Emperor, there. Ships move in ways that should be impossible. Our sensors detected acceleration rates that would kill any known species. Impossible, Thrax replied. No biological organism can survive such forces. But he was wrong. On the bridge of the UES, Vengeance Admiral Torres was pushing his crew to their limits. The G-forces from their evasive maneuvers would have killed most aliens instantly. But humans had evolved on a world where survival meant adaptation. All ships maintain defensive formation, Torres ordered. We need to buy time while our engineers work on the surprise. The engineering sections of every human ship, teams worked frantically on a desperate plan. Chief Engineer Pavel Volkov had discovered something interesting about captured Havrak technology. It could be turned against its creators. Admiral, we've finished modifying the Havrak energy cores, Volkov reported. If we can get close enough to their Planet Killer, we can overload their own power systems. Torres nodded grimly. It was a suicide mission, but it might be their only chance to save the Villani and stop the Havrak Empire from learning too much about human capabilities. How close do we need to get? Torres asked. Within 1 kilometer of their main reactor? Volkov replied. The ship attempting the mission won't survive the explosion. On the planet below, Commander Yalan watched the approaching fleet with despair. Even after witnessing human combat abilities, he couldn't see how 50 ships could defeat 500. Commander, the humans are transmitting. Officer Dex reported. Admiral Torres appeared on their screen, but his expression was calm and determined. Commander Yalan, we need you to do something for us. Prepare your strongest communication array to broadcast on all frequencies. What message should we send? Yalan asked. Tell the galaxy what happened here today, Torres replied.
Oh.
Tell them that the Havrok Empire can be defeated. Tell them that Earth stands with any species that values freedom. Emperor Thrak grew impatient. As his fleet moved into attack position, humans maintained their defensive formation, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. He decided to end this quickly. Activate the planet killer, Thrak commanded. Target the human fleet. I want them vaporized completely. The massive weapon began charging, energy readings spiking across the system. The planet killer was designed to crack planets in half, but it would serve just as well to destroy a small fleet. Admiral, they're powering their super weapon, Lieutenant Commander Sterling reported. Energy output is off the charts. Torres made his final decision. All ships, except Vengeance, full retreat to the outer system. Execute Plan Omega. Captain Morrison looked at his admiral in shock. Sir, you can't seriously be considering ramming that thing. It's the only way, Torres replied. 1 ship to save 2 species. That's a trade any human would make. But Torres had underestimated his crew. Throughout the fleet, ship captains made the same decision. Captain Sophia Reyes broke formation in her fighter, diving toward the planet killer. Colonel Webb's assault teams prepared for one final boarding action. Major Chen's Marines readied themselves for a ground assault on the weapons control systems. Sir, all ships are refusing to withdraw, Morrison reported with pride. The fleet is requesting permission to attack. Torres felt a surge of emotion. This was what made humans different from other species. They didn't fight just for victory. They fought for each other, for ideals, for the future of life itself. All ships, final attack formation, Torres commanded. We're going to show the galaxy what Deathworlders are really capable of. The human fleet charged directly at the massive Havrok Armada. It should have been the end of humanity's first space battle. But the humans had one final surprise. As the fleets closed distance, the human ships suddenly split apart. Each vessel revealed hidden modifications, stealth generators, enhanced engines, and weapons that had been secretly upgraded during their journey. The humans hadn't just been preparing for battle, they had been adapting their technology, based on what they learned about their enemies. Impossible. Emperor Thrak roared, as human ships seemed to teleport through his formation. How are they moving through our shields? Chief Engineer Volkov had discovered that Havrok shields were designed to stop energy weapons, not solid matter. Traveling at extreme speeds, human ships, built lighter and faster than anything the Havrok had encountered, could literally fly through the enemy's defenses. Captain Reyes led her fighter squadron straight into the planet. Killer's superstructure. The massive weapon was so large that it had its own defensive systems. But they were designed to stop other capital ships, not small, fast fighters. Ghost Squadron, target the main reactor chamber, Reyes transmitted. We only get one shot at this. Her fighters dove into the weapon's interior, dodging automated defenses and structural beams. The planet killer was like a hollow moon filled with machinery and power conduits. At its center was the reactor that could destroy worlds. Colonel Webb's assault teams had boarded 3 Havrok ships simultaneously, creating chaos in the enemy fleet. The Havrok had never faced opponents who could fight effectively in zero gravity, heavy gravity, and toxic atmospheres equally well. All teams, plant the charges and get out. Webb commanded as his Marines fought their way to the enemy ship's reactor cores. The explosions began moments later. Havrok ships throughout the formation began dying as human boarding parties sabotaged their power systems from within. The aliens had superior numbers, but humans had superior adaptability. Emperor Thrak watched his fleet disintegrate around him. These humans fought like nothing he had ever encountered. They turned every disadvantage into an advantage, every defeat into a lesson for the next battle. "All ships withdraw," he finally commanded. "Full retreat." But it was too late. Captain Reyes had reached the planet killer's reactor core. The nuclear charges her squadron carried were small compared to the massive weapon, but they were precisely placed to cause a chain reaction. "This is Ghost Leader," she transmitted to the fleet. "Mission accomplished. Tell Earth that we remembered our training." The planet killer exploded like a second star, taking dozens of Havrok ships with it. The shockwave scattered the enemy fleet and sent Emperor Thrak's flagship tumbling through space. When the light faded, the human fleet still held the field, damaged, outnumbered, but victorious. They had defeated the most powerful military force in the galaxy through courage, intelligence, and the deadly skills learned on humanity's harsh world. Commander Yalin activated his communication array as Admiral Torres had requested. His message went out across the galaxy, to every species, every world, every civilization that had lived in fear of the Havrok Empire. "This is Valani Prime," he broadcast. "Today, warriors from a world called Earth stood against the Havrok Empire and won. The galaxy has new protectors. Deathworlders have come to the stars, and they fight for freedom." The message would travel for years, reaching species that had never heard of humans or Earth. It would inspire rebellions on 100 worlds and give hope to civilizations that had thought themselves doomed. Admiral Torres stood on his damaged bridge, looking out at the stars. Humanity had won its first interstellar war, but he knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of threats and wonders that Earth's children would face in the years to come. "Communications? Send a message to Earth Command," Torres ordered. "What should it say, sir?" asked the communications officer. Torres smiled. "Tell them that humanity has taken its place among the stars, and tell them to send more ships. The galaxy is going to need us."